Hey everyone, welcome to Adobe Live. Today we have Barbara here to go through some digital illustration stuff. Barbara, what are we going to look at today?
So we're going to create an illustration system and we do it using Adobe Sketch on the iPad first and then recreating one of the illustrations in Illustrator.
Cool, exciting. All right, enjoy. My name is Liv, and this week we have illustrator Barbara Fondrieschi with us.
Yes.
You did a bad job of pronouncing that one.
You did it right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to get into your little masterclass today. Welcome to the chat if whoever's joining us today. As always, please put as many questions in there as you like. We love hearing them. We love getting your perspective and interest in things. And if you haven't already, log in with your Adobe ID. You should be able to do that in the top right of the screen. If you haven't got an Adobe ID, it takes 2 seconds to set up, so definitely encourage you to do that. Tell us where you're from. We'll do little shout outs. We'd love to know where you're coming and tuning in from. So yeah, we'll get into it. Barbara, why don't you maybe start by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you started, what brought you here to Sydney, because you're not originally from here.
Yes,
so
no, I'm from Italy.
A little bit of your background.
Yes, so I'm a freelance digital illustrator. I work mostly in Sydney, but also with agencies and startups worldwide. I've been here in Sydney for years, and that's when I started illustrating. So yeah, I've always loved illustration, but never really got into it. But when I got here, I finally decided to just go for it. So I started studying doing as many tutorials as I could, putting into a lot of work. My husband's been great help because he's the one really pushing me and he's been mentoring me as well.
He's a designer as well.
Yes, he's a great designer as well. So yeah, I just started doing it, putting my work out there, and that's how I started.
So you're self-taught for the most part? Yeah,
yes.
Cool. That's amazing. Like considering it's only been about 4 years and your portfolio looks amazing. So yeah,
Thank
well
you.
done. Cool. Hi to Emily from Brizzy, Camille from the Philippines, Flynn from Sydney. Just trolling the chat. All right. Well, yeah, please. Oh, kia ora from Windsor Creative in New Zealand. Love having people from across Tasman. All right, let's get started. So why don't you get into it and show us what you're doing today?
Of course. Today I want to show you guys an illustration system I created. So we're going to recreate one of the illustrations together, but I'm also going to talk you through the process behind the illustration system. So for today, it's a made-up project. So I decided to create it specifically for this session, but I wanted it to feel as much as possible like a real project. So what I did, I imagined that a client, in this case Adobe, asked me to create a set of illustrations. So I'm going to show you what I created. So this is the one I created to present InDesign, as you can say, Photoshop, and this is the one for Illustrator.
Cool.
So the idea was to create this illustration system. And just, I'm going to talk you through the process. So, first of all, I started imagining the business needs. So, let's say the brief was to create a series of scalable illustration. And for this specific project, I focused on Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, but it had to be scalable, the system. So, let's say tomorrow they want to add another one for Lightroom. So, we need to be able to do that. So the illustrations had to be consistent with each other, but of course also unique to present the feature of the specific project products. So after that, there's the design brief. So it was important to, especially, well, I imagined, because that's what happens, especially when you work with big companies, you have to work with art and creative directors. And yes, so understand what the message you want to communicate is, and also it's very important to be consistent with the brand, so with the tone of voice, with the visual. So the illustrations, of course, had to have this kind of connection with the brand.
Yes.
Also, I imagined that one of the requirements was to include the human touch, so to create this connection with the users.
Interesting, yeah.
And after that, all right, I had to think how to make the work scalable, because it's an illustration system. So as we said, we want to add maybe other ones in the future for existing or new products. So particularly for the project, I just decided to have, the characters. So each of them needed one. And also the colors are, of course, the ones from the softwares. And that's what I did. So when we want to, let's say, create another one, a fourth one or more, we just kind of follow this
system.
This system, yes.
So they can sort of feel like they live together in the same family, but they can be individually different.
Yes. Also, what I usually do, of course, I try to just follow what the requirements are, but also to think how I can make the illustrations unique. How can I add my personal expertise and my touch? So in this case, I suggested to add the panels. So so just to create more of a connection with softwares themselves, and that's also scalable. Yes, of course. With a new software, you can just use the panels, like they kind of represent the specific features of that.
So they'll be recognizable to people who are familiar with that software.
Yes, exactly. That was the idea. Also, that's from a technical point of view. I also try to consider what I need the illustrations for. In this case, it was mainly for the website, but it can be for print, so you also need to consider that when you start. And also, I kind of try to understand who is going to handle my files when I'm done. So make sure that they are perfect also for those people to work on.
Always a good habit to get into.
Then this is just a little bit about how I manage the work and a few suggestions. So what I think it's very, very important is always to ask a lot of questions. Make sure you've got everything clear before even starting to sketch. Create documentation, because there might come up some problems, but if you try to be really as clear as possible, document everything, the chance is very little. So you can prevent problems before they happen, and that's great, I think.
Very useful.
Also, so I always try to define clear steps and milestones we're working, get client's approval after each step. And also keep a record of all the decisions taken. I found it very important because, of course, often we work with a deadline or on a budget as well. So we need to consider that we don't really want to go much further into the project, and then I have to go back and redo things. That's why it's important to get approval.
Follow the process.
Yes. So just to sum it up, always get a brief. If the clients don't provide one, just create one yourself and share with them. And then when it comes to design, so I always make sure I'm on the same page with everyone that's working at the project, getting all the requirements, limitations, brand style guides in order to follow them and make what you create consistent with the brand as well. And also understand if there's some limitation in what you're going to create. For example, for this project, the panels are great on the website, and you can create maybe a nice parallax effect when scrolling, but not so great on mobile. But the good thing is that you can just remove there. So I had to keep that in mind. And and to get a bit more into the project. Sorry. So it's great to create a mood board. Sometimes I do it. Sometimes it's a client that kind of provides it, but you can just do it together, I guess. It's like a collaboration, and it's great to make sure everyone is on the same page and the ideas are kind of aligned.
Yeah. Before you sort of it's like tempting to race ahead a bit sometimes when you might have a quick idea and it's like, oh, I might sketch it, but getting on the same page is a really good place to start. Do you prefer to do that in person with people? Like, do you generally say go to the creative director's office and then sit down and then work with them a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's always great anyway to like meet in person, especially at the beginning. So the more you understand your client's needs and talk and the project, the better it would be.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. But yeah, you can just after that, like you can just do it like via mail, or that's also a great. Cool. And then once we got kind of an idea of what the general direction. I like to get into details, so define a visual style, a composition, all the items and the details of the illustration. And also consider, if there's some limitations regarding where the illustrations will be used. So like we said, on mobile, they don't really work, so we can just remove them.
Yeah.
And then the fun part begins. So it's when I get to sketch. Usually it's a very rough sketch to start with, just to give an idea of the composition. So like in this case, the character in the middle and then the panels around. And then to make sure that works, and also not just the illustration itself, but as a system.
Yep.
And I forgot to mention, I love to do that in Adobe Sketch because I like to keep everything digital. It's great. You can share the work in progress with the client. You can keep like different stages of what you're doing. Also create a cool time-lapse video of what you're doing. So that's also very great. You can also post it on social media. And I think that's all great material you can create. So after the first rough sketch, I start refining it, and I try to get into detail. So everything, like in this case, just start giving shape to the characters, creating the objects they're going to use, all these kind of things. And also very important, when that's done, I try to get like a formal approval from the client. That's because from me on, it would be like a lot of work. So it's always better not to like work for like, let's say, a day on something and then like find out that you need to go back and redo it.
Right? That can be very frustrating.
Yes, it's very easy to do it when you're like in the sketching phase. All right. So yes, and then I just start creating the illustrations. I usually do it in Illustrator. I create the shapes, the colors, all the details, everything we're going to recreate together here.
Oh, exciting.
And then at the end, I just make sure that everything's perfect. And just a few tips. I think it's great to take breaks while working on a project, just not to, because you might end up missing something or you get tired. So you need to, I think, step back, take a break. If possible, I like to work on different projects at the same time. And then go back to it, and then again get approval from the client.
Very crucial.
And that's it. And then when the work's done, just make sure everything is perfect for whoever's going to use your file next. So I just go back and clean the layers, rename everything, artboards, layers. I usually do it like along the way because it helps me work better. But yes, like just go back, make sure everything is perfect, and keep in mind who's going to handle it: designer, developer, or motion designer. It may change slightly according to through this. And then I'm going just to show you what they look like. So we said they were going to be used on the website. So that's the one, Photoshop. Also, yes, you can see there's some limitations here I had to keep in mind. We got a title, a little description. There's also a call to action button there. So, of course, I had to work around that. That's
quite nice how, like, I think the elements you've got is sort of like a central kind of focus like the character, but the panels and things can move around depending on the context of where the image is going to be. So like as a system it works quite nicely.
Thank you.
Cool.
And that's the final one.
Cool.
All right.
So you're going to get into showing us how we actually make these things?
Yes, finally.
Awesome.
And I'll be recreating this one.
Cool.
All right.
Let's do it.
So to do that, I'll just here. I'll just do a quick rough sketch to start with.
So you're in Adobe Sketch at the moment?
Yes. Yep. And okay. So just okay. Sorry, guys. Let me just plug it in a second.
The old charge.
Yeah, right.
This is a good thing about the pencil is that it charges in like 15 seconds or something, doesn't it?
It should be, but maybe
supposedly.
It's just my fault. Yeah, it is. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay.
Do you ever start on paper?
Not really.
Not really?
No, I like to keep everything digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's here we go. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Makes it handy because I sometimes when I have to scan in things, it ends up being really dodgy, or you take a photo, but if it's digital, it's like you have a nice crisp white background. It just makes it a bit more, just easy to work with sometimes.
Absolutely. And I like, you can just remove the background if you want. Like in this case, when I send the file to Illustrator, that's great. So I just have.
Yep. Cool.
All right. So the first thing I do is to create the rough sketch. So in this case, let's say. It won't look nothing like the final one, but it's just to give an idea of the composition. So like in this case, okay, just, all right, to see, oh my God. Okay.
Would you ever draw from like, if you're looking for a particular pose for someone, would you sort of draw from a reference, or just, do you sort of have an idea?
I usually try and find reference. So yes, absolutely, I did it. For this project as well. So I wasn't quite sure when I started what the best poses would be like. So I kind of explored it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes, I can show that to you in a second. So that let's say that was just the main concept with some panels around. So that's the very rough sketch. But then, all right, here we go. So next I focused on trying to explore a little bit of the poses. I wasn't quite sure, so I just drew a few of them. And the cool thing is I can show you guys here. Okay. A quick time-lapse video where you can see what I did. So yes. And while doing that, yes, I had a look at some references. I Googled a little bit, found some images, photos, but also some other illustrations. So here we go. I was in the exploration phase.
Have you ever done stuff like life drawing, just to
No.
get familiar with? Oh, there you go. I mean, it's great. Proportions are, I'm terrible at drawing people, and my proportions are always completely out. I always think I should do one of those live drawing courses to get better at it.
So here we go. A little bit of exploration again.
Nice.
Yes, and then yes, I went back and refined a few of them. I decided which ones work better. I wasn't quite sure, so I kept on drawing. And then, yes, that's kind of a selection of them. Yes, that's, you can recognize probably. Okay, I added some of the elements as well, because I wanted the characters to feel a bit more like they are designers, like the potential users of softwares. So, well, it's got a coffee.
Classic designer.
And then headphones, a laptop. So yes, this is the phase where I just refined my sketches.
So you're sort of slowly building things up and just iterating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. absolutely. And some of them, especially, the guy and this girl here, they look a bit more like the final ones. While this one, I kind of iterated a bit more in Illustrator, but yes.
We've got a question from Bob who's just wondering how long does that sketching part usually take?
It really depends. A few hours, I guess. Yes, I guess so. Like, I try to keep sketching until I'm satisfied, but of course you don't want to spend
forever.
Yes, forever on it.
Yep.
But yes, I would say a few 2-3 hours maybe, just to make sure I'm happy. And including also I don't know, a little bit of research, not just the sketching itself. All right. So next, I think we can just start recreating one of them.
Cool.
Okay. Here we go. So what I did, I already imported the sketch here. What I usually do, I just airdrop it from Adobe Sketch, or you can send it directly to Illustrator, and it opens there. So what I usually start with is I start recreating the shapes of it. So I make sure I also lock this layer. Okay, perfect. So, and then, okay. I usually just use very basic tools. So for example, okay, let me just, okay. Right, so I just, okay, I'm on the wrong layer, that's why, okay. Here we go, so I just use the pen tool and I start recreating the head of a character and just follow the sketch.
Do you usually use a mouse, or are you Wacom user?
No, I usually
just mouse.
Work with the mouse. Yeah, I think that's what works for me. Okay, so but what I want to do, I want to be able to see my sketch, so I'll just go here and reduce the opacity. There we go. And then I also want these shapes to have a bit of color. Okay. Okay.
Have you sort of set the color palette early on?
Yes.
Yep.
So what I did, so I picked the colors from the colors of the logos, so the main color and also this other shade, and I'm going to use shade of those to recreate the illustration. But usually in this space, well, it doesn't really matter, so I use any color. It usually looks quite ugly in terms of colors because I just go and change them. I just wanted to be able to clearly see the different shapes. So, all right, okay. So I'm moving a little bit and then, okay, I create here.
How do you sort of decide what shapes are individual shapes versus, because you could sort of create the whole head with the ear, but you kind of separate them out. So do you have a sort of way of figuring out which shapes should be different?
I like to keep them separate just to be able to move them around. So yeah, but usually it's I don't know, in this case kind of the main parts. So of course a few things will have to be separate shapes because they have separate colors. In this case they don't really have to, because the color would be the same, but I just like to have them
easier.
Separate. Just I guess it's works well for me. And then I just
we had a question from Camille who was wondering how you decide I guess what genders each of the characters should be.
That's a very good question. So I assume that this was part of the brief. I wanted to keep a balance, so of course it had to be in this case it's 3 of them, so I just did 2 girls and a boy, but let's say we want to add another one, that would be a guy to balance. So 2 and 2. Try
and keep it fair.
Yes. Yes. Okay, just keep doing it. Okay, just change the color a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to add the hem. Keep doing everything with the pen tool. Works well for me. Okay, now this one will go behind it. Right. So this phase might take some time. So we just recreate a few of them, but it's very important to give it the right time.
How long would you usually sort of spend on something like this?
I think it depends on the complexity of the illustration itself. So in this case, it's not too big anyway, so it shouldn't take too long. Sometimes though, I might change, like I try to stick to the sketch I created. Sometimes you see that something doesn't really work when you like just do an Illustrator, so I change it a little bit, but yeah, in this case I think like it shouldn't take too long.
And have you already shared that sketch with the creative director and the team? Like, is that sharing it at that level is kind of okay for them to see?
You mean the sketch on?
Yeah.
I think that's like quite close to what we're going to like the final illustration.
Yep.
So yes, and then I'm not going to show to share with them just the construction of the shape. So next time I'll be probably sharing like something a bit more advanced with some like more realistic colors and details. But let's say when we get to this point, we usually quite like sure of the direction and what we wanted to achieve. So we're usually on the same page. So okay, I want to change them a little bit. So let me just okay. I'll just move the handle around the anchor points. Okay, so I'm going to create the nose and the rest of the face. Alright, so eyebrows, and when possible I also try to reuse shapes or start from shapes that are already like in this case I started from a kind of circle and then just change that a little bit.
So you don't have to go redraw everything.
Yeah, it's not always possible, but yeah, when you've got like some very basic shapes, I guess that's great, and it saves you a lot of time. And then reuse things when you can. Okay, a little bit, and I'll just make it a little bit smaller because it's there on the corner. Yeah, and maybe at this stage I'm going to start changing the colors a little bit. So that's the color I chose for the face, but okay, I'll change the hair as well. Okay, so for this I'll just be using the dark brown. That's the same from the logo. I just want it to be like consistent. Of course this would be, and also the brows would be the same color. This one needs to go at the front. Alright, so okay, I'm just going to create the eyes as well.
I had a question just about using the trackpad versus, the tablet or the mouse. Is there any reason why you prefer the mouse over any of the others?
Well, I don't really find the trackpad quite convenient. It's very hard, to be precise. I'm just really used to mouse, I guess. But there's probably just my way. I guess.
Because whatever works and whatever you're comfortable with, really.
Yes, I think that's the best thing. So you can be quite quick. What you're comfortable with.
It's good proof that you don't always need a Wacom, contrary to what Jeremy would say.
It probably depends on the complexity of the work you're going to create itself as well.
True.
So sometimes it's okay to use the mouse. Other times you just want a bit more control, I guess. So, and as I did before, I'm just going to reuse this on this side. Okay. Also, another thing I like to do, because I want to be able to change, let's say the color I chose for the skin might not be the final one. We might want to change it. So what I want to do, all right, so let me just bring the opacity, okay, to 100%. So what I usually do, and I did in this case as well, I just turn them black. I'll just and then I'll just group them together and then work here. Okay, just work on the opacity.
Right, yeah.
So I'll just go and change to soft light and maybe let's say 50%. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so if I want to go back and let's say make it a little bit darker or okay.
Because you've got that multiply, the layer on top, it will basically mean that whatever colour comes through, it will kind of change to suit
yes,
that.
it will change accordingly. So
Yeah,
that's,
nice.
I think, yeah, that's great. So you can just keep it flexible, I guess. All right, so once I've created some of the shapes, I'm not going to finish this, but if that's okay, I'll just move to the next step. So that's just the base. Let's say I've created all the shapes and I'm ready to add some details. So what I'm going to do, I want to create a little bit of details here on the hair and on the skin, the clothes and everything. So I can just do it the same way. So I'll just go and let's say add some detail here. Okay, so but I don't want it to. Okay, so I'll just add a stroke to this. Okay, let's say maybe a dark color. Okay, so I'll just go and pick, let's say I pick this stroke here.
So that's the sort of texture on the stroke that you've got.
Yes, so I decided to just use this to add some detail. Let's see, maybe a little bit smaller, 6, okay. So go, what I want to do, I also want to check all these things here. Okay, and with this kind of detail, let me just add a few more. So I'll just add some on this side as well.
We had a question in the chat
Yeah.
from Angel, who was wondering if you have like a signature or consistent visual style, or do you sort of work to the briefs that you get?
I usually do that. So according to the brief, I try to create a different kind of illustration style. Yes, I just like to just change a little bit, just because every project is different. And sometimes the client might have something specific in mind. Of course, I don't want to go too far from what I usually do. That's this kind of style. But it can change a bit and it can be fun. Like,
explore something different.
Yeah, I think so. All right, and with these details, I just do the same as I did with the eyes and the nose. So I just group them together and then just go and work on the opacity and the soft light, and then maybe let's say 30%. So it's also very flexible because I want to change this color here. Not there. Okay. Yes. So this. Okay. Yes. I don't need to change them too. So they will just change accordingly. Okay. Let's go back before that. Okay, and then yes. I want to add some more details here. This as well. Okay, I don't want the fill, just one stroke. Make sure everything's good. And I'm going to apply this brush and give it to keep it consistent. I think it was 6 we did before.
Where do you get the brushes from?
I just try and check some stuff I've got download, or sometimes I just use the default ones. So in this case I just found this one that's pretty cool, so I decided to use it, and I used it not just for the details but also here to give some texture at the edges as well. So this I just add a bit more details up here.
Is that sort of like a fold on the shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. With that, just apply again the brush. Okay, and again, I'm just going to group them and then just work on the opacity. So let's keep it consistent. So, okay, and soft light. So in this case, it kind of it's very subtle, but I just wanted to give a little bit of details without being too much. Right. So, okay. There's still a lot to do here. We can add details on the shoes, everywhere actually. So,
how do you know when too much we've gone too far with the detail? It kind of could be tempting just to.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yes, I take breaks. That's I think it's a good suggestion. So I keep adding, then just pause and then go back and see when it looks right. But yeah, sometimes you might just overdo, so I just go back, change it a little bit, and just keep it a bit more simple. Right. So in this case, I'm going to show you then. Yes, I took them off, but yes, that's what I apply here on the shoes. And this bar here, I just used a stroke, but with a dash line. So that's how I added a little bit of texture to the shoes. And okay, so and let me show you a little bit more details as well. So as you can see, I try to keep everything on different layers, just because I wanted to be able to control them independently. Let's say I want to make these details here a bit darker against the sleeve. I want to be able, of course, to not to go back and do them one by one. Just apply the same thing to the same level at once, but also it can be just a bit different here from the kind of effect I want to achieve over here. So yeah, all right. Yes, and also I think we can add a little bit of a background here and start seeing if it works with the colors of our character. So just create a square, right, and I'll just give it the color. Okay, there we go, but we wanted to send it at the back, so I'll just drag it here. Right, so that's quite bright. So what I want to do here, I want to keep the color. I don't want to change this, but still it's a bit too bright. so I'm just going to add. Okay, add a new fill, a black one. Okay, let me just see. Sorry, no, let me just. Okay. There we go. So here we go, and then I'm going to change the opacity again. So let's say I'll take it down to 15%. This way it's not too bright, but I get to keep the bright color. That's the one. Okay.
Because you don't want it to compete too much with the focus of the illustration, which is the person there.
Exactly.
If it's too bright, it might be a bit much.
Yes. Also, I just want it to be a bit different because, as you can see here, there's a logo, so we don't want it to be exactly the same because that will just disappear. But still, I want to keep it consistent. So I just like to add this filter and work with the opacity as well. And then, all right. So our guy, of course, won't be floating. So I'm going to add, just hit M, and I'm going to add just okay. There we go. Okay, so and I also need to send this back.
We're getting lots of comments on how organised and neat your file is, which I was also admiring. Everything's named and in its place.
I try to. Then there's something that I haven't yet, but I'm going to do that at the end.
Yeah.
So before delivering it, I'll just go back, check everything, make it really tidy and neat. All right, and then I just do the same here as I did before. So that would be black, but I want to work on the opacity as well. There we go. So that's our background. And then, okay, at this stage, I want to, once everything's done, so we got our guy with all the details, I had it using the same brush, a little bit of shadows here. I use the same kind of technique with grouping everything, working with soft light and opacity. So again, if I want to change the color, that will change accordingly to keep it flexible. And then now I want to recreate the logo. So what I'm going to do, I just start with the real logo, which I downloaded. Okay, just import it here. Okay, let me just okay. All right, so just take this and drag here. Okay, which is clearly too big, but I'm going to resize it. All right, here we go. Okay, whoop. Just stay together. Just going to group it. All right. So what I want to do here, I wanted to give it a bit of look in line with our character. So I'm going to just apply same brush. Okay, here we go. And then I also wanted to feel like it's natural here, in the right perspective. So what I do, I use the free transform tool. Okay, and then just click here and just resize it a little bit, not much. Okay, let me just, okay, and then I'm going to move it. And of course I need to place it in front of that arm. Alright, so there we go. I also want, yes, I ended up, okay, it ended up here, but I want to move it, so I'll just bring it here. Alright, and move it, let's say, okay, a little bit down. It's the other one. There we go, but I also want it to be at the back of our character. Just see where you are. Alright. Let me just move it a little bit further down. Here we go. Here we go. And then, of course, okay, let me just, okay, drag it. You don't want to be dragged. Okay.
Bit reluctant.
Alright. Okay, so I also want all the logo to be visible. So I just resize it a little bit so it's in the right position too. Okay. Here we go. And then the next stage, so pretty much the character is ready. So I'm just going to add a shadow. So to do that, okay, first I'll just lock the background because I don't want it to move. We're right here, and the floor as well. And then, okay, I'm going to create a shadow for it. So what I do, I just, okay, let me see where I am. Okay, that's my layer. So I'm going to create an ellipse. Okay, I want to give it a bit of a gradient, and also I want to add some let me see, some blur. So just go here, blur. Okay, and I can see a preview and check how I like it. Okay, let's say I like this, but I also want to work and change a bit the gradient. So just go here and move this around. I want it to be, okay, dark, black on both sides. Okay, but I want the opacity, okay, here to be like 0. So it kind of does like a shadow. I can
nice fade.
Yes, so I can just move this a little bit, and then again I can work on the opacity. So just like bring it down. Let's say, no, that's probably too low. So just do 30%. See how it goes. Also, I don't really like the blur. It's a bit too much. So just go back here and work with this a little bit. And yes, that looks much better. And what I want to do that, I started with this shape, but I can change it, and then the gradient and blur will change accordingly. So just apply here and just change it a little bit. So I hit A and just make it a little bit longer. I want it to start here. And then I can move it a bit. Okay, and create a bit more of an organic shape.
We just had a question from Emily, who maybe wasn't following how did you change the gradient after you'd sort of set it?
All right, so I just click it, and you got the gradient panel, and you can just do edit gradient.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, that will open this, and you can go back and change it again. You can like change the values here. You can bring this one down as well in opacity if you want, but yes, everything's here. If you want to change the kind of gradient, it's linear here, but you can give it a radial gradient or just freeform. Yeah, so that's what the shadow is going to look like. And again, okay, let's rename it and then just move it down so that it's, yeah, here we go. Let me move it a little bit. There we go. All right, so this is going to, our character is going to look like. So now we got the character ready, but we also need to add the panels. So here we go. That's a little bit of the process. Okay, just leave here. All right, so yes, so to create the panels, I just had a look at the softwares and try to find some of the iconic tools. So this is what I picked: Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. So I just like quickly screenshot them and open them here, so I could just have them as reference to recreate them. And then what I did, I created the panels. I wanted them to be consistent with each other, so I kind of I created a grid and a module to follow, and it's the same for all of them. Of course, this one's a much smaller, and this one's bigger, but the module at the base is the same.
And that consistency is important for keeping the system feeling like it's all part of the same family.
Absolutely. I also think that visually it looks much nicer when everything's consistent. Like, you know, there's something like the same kind of module. You don't really know, but you can kind of feel. I guess. So in this case, yeah, that's what I created. I used the guides as well to help me build it. And also what I did, okay, it's the one. So these are all the shapes I created, and that helped me create the guides as well. And then after recreating the icons, I just apply them and use this sort of frame as a guide. So, but I can easily, change it. And what we want to do now, we can just select them, and then here we go. Just open them here together with a character. Let's give it a second. All right. So in this case, I won't need this and this. So that's the one I need. When creating this, I also worked a bit with opacity as well. So I wanted the icons to just stand out, but the rest of them, these panels, to kind of blend with the background and just pick a bit of the color. So this one, for example, is 85% opacity, while I kept 100% for the icons. So, okay.
We had a question from Ina, who was wondering, when you start these sort of illustrations, do you sort of know what the output should look like, or do you kind of just, you sort of continually improving as you go and then sort of getting to a point where you feel like it's right?
All right. Well, I try to have a clear idea before starting, but yes, it happens that you start creating something and then it comes out a bit different from what you had in mind. So you kind of adjust it as you go. It's always better, I guess, to have a clear idea and stick to that. But yes, absolutely. If something doesn't feel right, you can just, like, I just change it. It happens a lot. Like with these illustrations, for example, I just show you this one here. So that was the initial sketch for my InDesign lady, and as you can see, like, I kind of changed it a little bit. So I started with recreating this, but it didn't really work. So I just went for a different kind of haircut.
Yeah, cool. Actually, I think Andy earlier had said something along the lines of just seeing how you can change and make it flexible is really nice, so that it's not like, oh, I have to follow my sketch to the, absolute sort of nth degree every time, but there's a room to be flexible depending on what you feel like. And I think it's sort of intuitive, right? It's sort of going with a bit of your gut as to what feels right in the moment.
Yes, because the sketch felt right when I did it, but yes, when I just started recreating it, it was just not what I had in mind. It was probably, I just changed it then. Yeah. And sometimes I also go back and sketch again. Sometimes I just do it in Illustrator. It really depends what I need to change. Like, for example, at the beginning, you probably can see from here, the guy, which is quite not too different. It's quite similar, but like the legs were in a slightly different position. And when I started to recreate them here, it didn't really work. So I went back. What I did, I just sent this illustration, the one I had with these legs here. I just removed the legs, send the whole thing back to Adobe Sketch, and then I just did the legs again.
Interesting.
So that I had it, because I was quite happy with the top part, and I wanted to keep that. So yeah, I just went back and did it again.
Good advantage of keeping it digital.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's very, very flexible as well. So here, let me just go. So we also wanted to add this panel here and this one here to our illustration. Oh, sorry, that's this one. Okay, give it a second. Okay, here we go. So I've got 1, 2, and also this one here together. Once I've got all of them, I just resize them. I want to keep them consistent because yes, I built them using the same module, so I don't want to resize them in differently
because they're proportional. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I'll just try and do that, and then just see if they work. Here we go. So in this case, I made a mistake there because I just resized them in the wrong way. So let me just go back. Okay. Okay, here we go. Yes, so I didn't really want to change, because when you just resize them the way I just did, it scales everything. So most of the strokes and stuff, it doesn't actually here. So I want everything to change. So just hit the scale tool. I don't want to I want to scale everything. So it's okay, and let's give it a 40%. Okay, perfect. So they didn't change, and then I just try and place them around and see if we like the composition. So here we go, and again this can change. So and it's the cool thing is that you can just move them around. You can have them at the back of the character, or also a little bit at the front, or just floating around like that. And also if we use them on the website, for example, 3 is too much, you can just remove one of them.
I had a question who was wondering how do you decide what sort of artboard size to work to?
I usually, it's vector, so it's scalable, so it don't really it's not a big problem, but I usually do 3,000 by 3,000. That's what I usually do, but I guess you can really, according to what you need to create, you can just change the size and pick a different one.
We also had a question around, and I'm not sure if you've done a lot of motion graphic sort of stuff, but in terms of, do you think about organising the layers or renaming those in a way that might actually get handover to a motion designer or someone who's going to take that into like After Effects?
Yes, so what I usually do, like in this case, let's say, yes, it might be animated. So what I'll do, of course, like maybe just slightly animated. I just go and make sure that everything is on a different layer. Let's say the arm would be on a layer. Also the head, yes, I'll make sure that everything's renamed properly and on separate layers. So it's easy to motion designer to work on that, and there would be no extra work.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Right. And this is what our final illustration looked like.
Amazing.
Here we go. And that's just the three of them together. And yes, so as you can see, like you can see they're part of a system, and it would be like very easy to add another illustration, I guess. And yes, it would probably be a guy. So we already have two girls, but I just just use the same the colors of the software. Let's say could be this color here if Lightroom is next.
Yeah.
And yes.
Amazing. We did have a question from Eno earlier who was wondering how long something like this as a project would usually take to complete.
All right. It really depends if I guess everything's goes smoothly. Yeah. But I think probably 4 or 5 days. Okay. Just like considering everything, also managing the project. So yes, I think that's could be right time.
Yep. Okay, cool. We've had a lot of comments from people saying how amazing the work is, particularly your workflow. Oh, so I hope everyone's really enjoyed it. You were going to put some of this on Behance?
Yes. So in the next few days, I'm going to create a presentation on Behance, and the files would be available for download as well if anyone of you guys wants to have a look at it.
Amazing. Cool.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. If you missed the Creative Challenge with Jeremy earlier, definitely catch up on those. And as usual, we'll be back next week with more Adobe Live. Thanks so much.
Thank you.